For decades, humanity has scanned the skies, hunting not only for planets or distant signals, but for something stranger: anomalies, rare, defiant events that refuse to follow the rules of the cosmos. And now, we may have found one. During what began as a routine observation, NASA's James Webb Space Telescope turned its gaze toward the third recorded interstellar object to ever enter our solar system, 3I/Atlas. But instead of the cold silence of rock and ice, Webb saw something else, something it was never supposed to see: a glow, not the reflection of sunlight, not the natural shimmer of gas or dust, but light, artificial light. Its pattern doesn't match comets. Its behavior doesn't obey physics as we know it. And the question left hanging in every scientist's mind is as chilling as it is profound. What is 3I/Atlas? Really? Stay with us as we uncover how a routine scan may have cracked open humanity's oldest and most unsettling mystery. Are we truly alone, or has something been watching us all along? And if you want to keep up with the latest discoveries that push the boundaries of science and mystery, make sure to subscribe and join us on this journey into the unknown. 3I/Atlas was first spotted as a faint speck on the edge of the solar system, moving with a trajectory no local object could follow. It was clearly interstellar, born beyond the gravitational embrace of our sun, flung across the galaxy by some unknown force, now drifting silently through our neighborhood. At first, it was treated as a cosmic curiosity, like its predecessors, Oumuamua and Borisov. But even in its earliest images, something felt off. Unlike most interstellar objects, 3I/Atlas was unusually bright, and not in a way that made sense. Its magnitude didn't correspond to its estimated size or composition. It shimmered with an unnatural consistency, its brightness neither fading as expected nor flaring with any sign of outgassing or dust release. Traditional comets tend to brighten in bursts as ice sublimates, but this one remained steady, as if it were powered from within. Telescopes across the globe turned to observe it, and Webb, with its unparalleled ability to peer into the infrared spectrum, was brought in to decode the mystery. What it saw changed everything. The James Webb Space Telescope, perched 1,000,000 miles from Earth at the Lagrange point, was designed to see the unseen, to cut through the glare of stars and reveal what's hidden in the shadows. Its gaze upon 3I/Atlas was expected to clarify the confusion. Instead, it amplified it. The telescope's instruments detected a centralized thermal emission that didn't correlate with any natural reflection of sunlight. Typically, a comet shines due to the sun's rays bouncing off dust and ice. But 3I/Atlas showed an internal heat signature, something that radiated from the core outward. This wasn't scattered light. It was emitted light. The thermal mapping revealed a pattern that followed no known distribution curve of natural objects. It pulsed faintly, irregularly, and most disturbingly, it seemed to cycle at intervals. That rhythm, repeating ever so subtly, suggested not randomness, but design. Some scientists at NASA and the European Space Agency proposed exotic explanations: radioactive decay, subsurface friction, alien isotopes. But as more data came in, those theories collapsed. The only consistent explanation left on the table was the one no one wanted to write down. This object might be powered. As data from Webb, Hubble, and terrestrial observatories piled up, a profile of 3I/Atlas began to emerge, and it looked nothing like any known celestial body. Its trajectory was too precise to be chaotic, as if it was choosing its path, subtly adjusting course through gravity wells. Its rotation was unnaturally stable, with a tumbling motion that defied standard inertial drift. And its lack of a cometary tail, even when passing near solar radiation, suggested a shell or casing, perhaps something protecting it from the heat. Then came the most controversial finding. The albedo, or reflectivity of its surface, was measured to be nearly perfect in parts, approaching that of polished metal, not rock, not ice, not dust, metal. The implications hit like a shockwave across the astronomical community. If it was metallic, structured, and emitting energy, then we were no longer observing a natural object. We were observing technology. Suddenly, the term probe was whispered in hallways. Beacon, craft, even artifact. The idea that this might be an alien spacecraft was no longer relegated to conspiracy forums. It was now quietly circulating in institutional emails behind encrypted firewalls. Perhaps the most damning piece of evidence wasn't the thermal emissions or the trajectory or the strange metallic signature. It was the light. Photometric analysis showed something chilling. The light coming from 3I/Atlas was focused in a narrow spectrum band. In other words, it wasn't a broad natural reflection of sunlight, but a controlled emission of specific wavelengths. This is precisely what we do with LED arrays, laser communication systems, and spacecraft signal beacons. Furthermore, this band included frequencies often used in communication and guidance systems on Earth. Not only that, but the intensity of the light seemed to respond ever so slightly to solar radiation, as though some onboard system was adjusting it in real time. It flickered, not at random, but with a strange, intermittent pulse. Astronomers ran the data through known signal models. What they got was inconclusive, but not meaningless. Some claimed the pulses resembled binary sequences. Others said it might be a rotating power source. But the conclusion was undeniable. This was not a passive object. It was doing something deliberate, and we were watching it live. As the data poured in, a team of astrophysicists from MIT and Harvard ran a deep signal analysis over the electromagnetic emissions coming from 3I/Atlas. At first glance, the frequencies seemed random, just noise scattered across the spectrum. But when they applied Fourier transforms to isolate cyclical patterns, something emerged. Within the static, buried like a whisper beneath the chaos, was a structured, repeating pulse, too precise to be natural. It wasn't a standard binary, nor a typical modulation used in human technology, but it bore the unmistakable fingerprint of intentional encoding. Some speculated it could be a beacon, a repeating broadcast intended for receivers not of earthly origin. Others theorized it could be telemetry, a constant data stream sent back to wherever this object came from. The unsettling part was this. Whatever the message was, it hadn't changed since the Webb first detected it. It was as if 3I/Atlas wasn't trying to talk to us, but someone else, and maybe that someone had already heard it. News of the discovery raced through the uppermost circles of science and defense. Inside NASA, a confidential report circulated quietly until it leaked to an unnamed journalist. The leak revealed that top officials were already working with international space agencies to figure out whether 3I/Atlas posed a danger. Some experts believed it was harmless, perhaps an ancient probe, centuries old, following a preset path through the cosmos. Others were far less sure. They asked unsettling questions no one could yet answer. If it's transmitting, who's listening? If it's giving off light, does that mean it has propulsion? If it came here deliberately, why now? The report even raised a chilling possibility that 3I/Atlas wasn't merely passing through, but actually observing, tracking planetary alignments, electromagnetic fields, maybe even advanced life itself. Behind closed doors, this sparked quiet panic. Because if it wasn't alone, then something else, something that sent it, might already be on its way. Further analysis of 3I/Atlas's strange glow produced a groundbreaking idea. The object might not only be releasing energy, it could be collecting it. The way its light shifted with distance from the sun, combined with its lack of visible chemical reactions, supported the theory that it could be running on a hidden solar collection array or photonic absorption system. Lowe and his team of theorists suggested that the dusty cloud surrounding the object might be doing two things at once, hiding its artificial structure and acting as a medium to draw in solar radiation. If true, it would mean 3I/Atlas is a self-sufficient craft built to travel endlessly across interstellar space, refueling itself as it jumps from star to star. This matches theoretical models of long-range probes, machines capable of lying dormant for centuries, waking only when they reach a system worth studying. If our solar system had triggered its awakening, then its message had already been received. Meanwhile, as space agencies around the world scrambled for answers, a sobering truth became harder to ignore. Humanity is not ready. For all our decades of imagining alien contact, our political, scientific, and even philosophical systems are unprepared to handle what 3I/Atlas might mean. No public announcements had been made, but leaked documents from France, Japan, and Brazil hinted at the same conclusion. This object might not just be an anomaly, but a first encounter happening in slow motion. And unlike Hollywood's version, there's no landing, no sudden ship in the sky, no instant answers. Only data, only light, only silence. The Webb telescope continues to watch the object every single day. Yet with each answer it provides, two new questions seem to appear. If this is contact, it isn't on our terms. It's on theirs. Quiet, distant, and deeply unsettling. And that might be the most frightening part of all, because what we're seeing may not be an invitation. It may be surveillance. We may have already been seen. Just when astronomers thought 3I/Atlas had settled into a predictable orbit, everything changed. Its luminosity spiked, not gradually as it neared the sun, but suddenly, in a flash caught in real time by the James Webb Telescope and confirmed by ground-based observatories. In less than 2 minutes, its brightness surged by nearly 40%, then stabilized at a new, higher level. No natural explanation fit. There was no solar-wind interaction, no impact, no breakup. It was as though someone, or something, had flipped a switch. This flare wasn't just visible, it changed the object's thermal signature, almost like a system powering on. Some theorists proposed a chilling possibility. 3I/Atlas had entered an awakened phase, triggered either by its proximity to our star or perhaps by our own observations. And if that flare was deliberate, it was meant to be seen. Soon after the brightening, space agencies around the world noticed something else. 3I/Atlas was no longer on its projected course. It had shifted, subtly but measurably. Gravity couldn't account for it. Even solar radiation pressure, often used to explain small course changes, didn't add up. This was no drift. This was a move. And its new path was even more alarming. Deeper into the solar system, with a shift that drew it closer to Earth's orbital plane. It wasn't just passing through anymore, it had changed lanes. Some scientists urged caution, calling it an anomaly. But others saw a maneuver, a deliberate course correction no comet or asteroid had ever made. If 3I/Atlas could propel or navigate itself, we weren't looking at a relic anymore. We were watching a vessel with intent. As it moved within the reach of Webb and Hubble's spectrographs, the data became even stranger. Scientists detected traces of highly reflective alloys, rare Earth elements, and most shockingly, spectral absorption lines from compounds not listed anywhere on our periodic table. These weren't substances you'd find in a frozen rock. They were engineered, or at least synthesized under conditions unknown in nature. One spectral profile resembled theoretical compounds only proposed in quantum material labs, substances thought possible only under intense magnetic fields or quantum confinement. This pointed to two possibilities: an unimaginable age, older than human civilization itself, or a recent creation by a civilization far beyond our own. The materials spoke louder than any signal, because even if we couldn't understand the message, the messenger was clearly unnatural. As evidence for a non-natural origin grew, governments and agencies reacted swiftly, though not in public. observatory networks tightened their encryption. Research teams were quietly reassigned. Satellites were suddenly recalibrated on multiple continents. Behind closed doors, spacefaring nations began secret contingency discussions. A leaked document from an international defense consortium suggested what many feared: 3I/Atlas might not be alone. It might be a scout. Its strange structure, stable rotation, and ability to operate across interstellar distances all pointed to design consistent with a long-term observation probe. But if it was scouting, what was it looking for? And more disturbingly, what might follow? Across universities, observatories, and military command centers, a single chilling consensus was forming. We were no longer alone, and first contact might not come as a greeting, but as an evaluation. As speculation reached a fever pitch, a bold team at the SETI Institute did what no one else would risk. They transmitted a focused radio pulse directly at 3I/Atlas's projected location. The message contained universal mathematical constants, the periodic table, and simple visual representations of humanity. It was intended as a cosmic handshake, a cautious hello. Days passed, then a week. No response. But just when the experiment was about to be archived as another unanswered call into the dark, one of the monitoring stations in Chile registered something strange. A narrow-band return pulse, off-frequency, distorted, but unmistakably timed to mirror the original message. It wasn't a reply in language. It wasn't an echo. It was a ping, a return signal with just enough variance to imply it wasn't passive reflection. It had been processed. It had been sent back. But what shook the SETI team the most wasn't the signal itself. It was the timing. Because the response came precisely 72 hours after transmission, to the second. It meant something had not only received our message, it had calculated the delay and answered deliberately. Following the detection of the return ping, observatories around the globe began experiencing technical anomalies. Webb's infrared instruments showed erratic thermal mapping for the first time since launch. Hubble's gyroscopic sensors registered microfluctuations despite stable orientation. Ground-based telescopes experienced what were initially dismissed as software glitches, misaligned star charts, inexplicable pixel distortions, and frozen data streams precisely when focused on 3I/Atlas. The object's path through the solar system, though it appeared natural at first glance, curved like a Fibonacci arc when charted against planetary positions, the same timeless spiral of proportional beauty that shows up across nature and, strangely enough, within many of Earth's own communication systems. Even more unsettling, the timing of its course adjustments, the bursts of light, and the responses to our pings all lined up with prime number sequences. The chance of this pattern arising by coincidence was impossibly slim. These designs were intentional. This meant the object, 3I/Atlas, wasn't just drifting through the solar system. It was moving with mathematical intent, as if guided by a chart or a timetable. A few bold theorists began to voice what once seemed unthinkable. This might not be an interstellar probe at all. It could be an interstellar message, not spoken in sound or written in symbols, but expressed entirely through motion and behavior. And somehow, we had just translated its first word. As the fog of confusion lifted, one undeniable truth remained. 3I/Atlas had never been just a rock. From the eerie glow it cast to the signals it reflected, from its rare materials to its precisely calculated path, every clue pointed toward one inescapable conclusion. We have not been alone for a very long time, and perhaps we were never supposed to believe otherwise. The James Webb Telescope, created to look back into the birth of galaxies, may instead have glimpsed something built to look back at us. Something ancient, intentional, and watching. Not from a distant star system, but from the edge of our own cosmic backyard. Yet silence holds. The agencies will not speak. The data is locked away. The world, it seems, is being told it is not ready. But we saw the glow. We traced the path. And now we ask the question that shakes even the steadiest minds. What comes next? Was 3I/Atlas merely passing through, scanning our fragile world before moving on? Or was it simply the first of many, a herald for something larger, something poised to act the moment a signal is sent? In the end, the question of whether 3I/Atlas was a machine or something far stranger may not matter. What matters is that it arrived, it observed, and it replied. And now, somewhere in the cold, endless dark, something may be shifting its gaze toward the blue planet that blinked first. The countdown, perhaps, has already begun. And once again, the universe makes its lesson clear. We are not the center. We are the observed.